Thank you for joining us here on Art and Soul. First, I'd like to actually mention this tomorrow night. There is going to be a fundraising event at the Art Center of Sarasota. It's called iConcept, and our guest today, Katelyn Studer, is actually going to be part of that. In any case, the fundraiser is going to go to funding programs for different cultural programs that are available for part of the thriving arts industry and boost the economy and well-being of the people in Sarasota. So for art lovers, it'd be very nice if you could go. But tonight, again, I have Katelyn Studer on the show. She's an actor, costumer, and artist. And tonight we're going to find out how she decided to become an actress. So thanks again.
Thank you.
So when did you know you wanted to become an actor?
It was actually my senior year of high school. At that point, I really hadn't decided what I wanted to do yet, and I was still trying to figure it out. And I had gone to the high school musical my junior year right before summer break, and I loved it, and I thought it was really cool. They did Aida, and it was just amazing. And so I figured, oh, that might be fun. Maybe I could do that. And so when I came back in the fall, my senior year, I decided to just on a whim audition, and they were doing Twelfth Night, Shakespeare's Twelfth Night, and I ended up getting the lead the very first show that I auditioned for.
Wow. So was that, would you consider that your big break, your first technical big break?
I'd say internally for me, wow. Because going to the rehearsals and everything and working on a character and just some of it came naturally to me and some of it I had to learn, but it just opened up this whole world to me, and I was captured by it, and I fell in love with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. And the first production, what was it called?
It was Shakespeare's Twelfth Night.
Wow.
Yes.
So you got the lead in Shakespeare's, like, just straight out the gate.
Yes. And so, and I mean, it was a more modernized version because it was high school, but it was two different characters that I had to play because Viola, the main character, has to go into disguise as a boy and work for a lord who she ends up falling in love with, and then reveals herself as a woman later, but then has to continue being a boy because she's trying to get the lord and this lady that he's chasing together. And so it's a big emotional role, and of course, very first production I'd ever been involved with, and it's a high school production, so I really didn't get into, I'd say, a whole lot of depth with it, but I definitely did understand. I understood the story, I understood the character, and I understood what emotions would be playing at that point, to a certain effect.
Yeah.
And so that was definitely where I really found out, I was like, wow, this is really what I want to do. I love it.
So what made you love it?
I'd say creating that magic. There's a magic of theater especially, but I mean, even I'm learning now film has a certain magic to it, and it's creating this world, and you don't have to stay in reality. You can take on another character, you can live in another world, you can live in another time.
Wow.
So I've always been very imaginative since I was a young kid, so being able to do that as a grown-up is really fun.
Yeah, and guess what? They pay you.
Yeah.
They actually pay you for that. Now, you're also a costumer.
Yes.
Now, tell me, how did you discover that was something you wanted to do?
That was actually in middle school. I took a home ec class, and so I was doing baking and all these different things, life skills that they were teaching you.
Yes. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, that's my iConcept project that I'm working on at the moment, and that will be revealed tomorrow. It's not completely done there, but it's ready to go.
Now with iConcept, the fashion show, you told me a little bit about it, that it's not like your regular fabric, is it?
Right. They wanted artists to take non-traditional materials, and so it's found objects, recyclable materials. I tried to find, for my project, I wanted to find materials that were not recyclable. So my project is actually something, because I guess plastic lids for plastic bottles, I found out that they aren't recycled even if you put them in the recycling bin.
Oh, really?
I guess something with the plastic, they just don't recycle them. And so they end up in the garbage. And a lot of times they end up in our environment, and especially being in Florida, our environment, being with the coastal waters and the swamplands inland and all these different habitats that we have in Florida, they're very, very vastly affected by pollution here because it's a vacation spot as well. Yeah. And so I wanted to find materials that weren't traditionally recyclable or things that wouldn't be put into recycling or, you know, anything that might just end up in a landfill or something.
Wow, I had no idea. That's very, I learn something every day. Because that's really thoughtful. I had no idea that they didn't get recycled. So you took the home ec class?
Yes.
And then?
And we started making like pillows. And so that's how I started.
I didn't get to make pillows. I had to make a jean dress. A jean dress.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I didn't pass. And I don't sew. I'm just saying. I was like, I'm going to go ahead and be daunted.
So we started out with pillows, and then we ended up making animal plushes. And from that, I started just, you know, kind of experimenting with different things. And then I started I bought a, you know, really simple pattern. And I actually had a friend of the family who was a tailor. And she was retired, and she was wheelchair bound, so she didn't get out of the house very often. So my mom would actually take me to her house, and she taught me how to, you know, use a pattern and how to cut material, and she gave me a whole bunch of materials to use. And so that's how I got my start with that, and I really enjoyed that. And I still do. I still really like it. It's not the same passion, I would say, as when I started acting and I fell in love with that, but I definitely do still love it. Yeah. And especially when it has something to do with performance.
Yeah. Yeah, that too. And does it have a special place because it was something you learned from your...
Oh, absolutely, yes. I mean, I would still be happy if I ended up as a costumer, too.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. I look forward to seeing some of your costumes in the future. Now, I'd like to show a clip right now of Katelyn's short film, Marry Me, and who's the director?
That was Isaiah Miller.
That's right, by Isaiah Miller.
His movie taste was horrible. He made me watch the second Hangover movie like 3 times, but when I tried to play Rushmore for him, he fell asleep.
That is crazy.
I know.
The Hangover 2 was a cinematic masterpiece.
What's an embarrassing fact about you?
I always cry during children's movies, without fail.
American Tail?
Somewhere Out There killed me.
Toy Story 3.
If you didn't cry during the incinerator scene, you don't have a soul.
I don't know what's sadder, the fact that you cry during children's movies, or the fact that my pants are still on after hearing that.
That looked like, I mean, I watched the whole film and it was just really good.
Oh, thank you.
And what's funny is I watched it with my husband, and as the film went on, there's that point, I'm not going to ruin it for you, I promise, and I just looked at his face and he's like, why did you do this to me?
Oh.
I'm like, I have not seen this. I don't know what's in this. How would I know that? So, cliffhanger. But yes, I mean, it was really good. I mean, you should, watching his face, I'm like watching the film, watching his face, watching the film. I'm like,
oh, that's great.
But I saw, the first one I saw, we're going to see a little bit later, and that's why I showed you this clip first, because I can't wait for you to see it. But one other question I wanted to ask you is that, were your parents, you said you just started on a whim? How did they receive the news that you wanted to become an entertainer?
Well, at first they didn't really take it seriously. I mean, especially still being a senior in high school, they were like, okay, yeah, sure, But then when I got to the college level and I started auditioning for plays in college and everything, and I was saying, this is what I want to do. This is my calling. My mom was trying to convince me a lot of the time to be a teacher for the first couple of years. And I understood, it's coming from a place of love. She wants me to have that stability. And, she was saying I'm great with kids. And, I have a lot of fun. I think partly because of the imagination and you can go into that different world really easily. So I have a lot of fun being with kids. But being a teacher was definitely not my passion. And I knew that it would not make me happy. And especially lately, but once I got to, I'd say, USF, and I was finishing my bachelor's degree after going to the community college. And I was really serious about it, and she saw how much I was fighting for it at USF because it was a much bigger theater program there.
Yeah.
She really came around, and my whole family, my grandparents were, set for it. As soon as I said it, of course they're going to support
They're always
whatever I
like
do.
that. Grandparents are like, I will support you.
Yes.
Oh, and of course your parents are like, why didn't you do that with me? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
So my whole family, everyone's come around, and they're really supportive.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is really good. I had another question. What was your most challenging role?
I'd say my most challenging role, we did a play called The Sweetest Swing in Baseball. And that focuses on an artist named Dana Fielding. And it was really tough because the play starts out, her career is kind of falling through. She's an artist, and her art show is failing, and she feels like she's not going anywhere, and she's failing as an artist. And so she actually attempts suicide and ends up in a mental institution to, be checked out and everything and make sure she's good to go back into the world after this breakdown. Luckily, I didn't have to play the suicide scene, but having to deal with the character before she decided to do this, and then the aftermath, afterwards, being in the mental institution, it was very hard. And the way that she copes and escapes with it is she decides to take on the personality of Darryl Strawberry, who's a baseball player. And it's because she wants to stay in the institution. They've decided, she's healthy enough that she could go. And she likes it there. She feels safe there. And so she adopts this second personality to try and stay and trick the doctors and stay in the institution for as long as she feels comfortable. And through this additional personality, she eventually comes back to art. And the show ends with her art show going back up again, and with these new paintings that she's painted as Darryl Strawberry, and it's successful.
Wow.
So it was really good, but the challenge, especially dealing with those emotions and everything, I remember there was one rehearsal where I hadn't really learned how to separate myself from the character. I'd say I was definitely more of a method actor at that point, because I was just kind of letting it live rampant, live in my life when I was out in classes and when I was, not in rehearsals. I was still letting a lot of that be there. And I remember a rehearsal for Sweetest Swing where I just started crying. And I just couldn't stop. Like, I was talking about the suicide in a scene, and I just started crying. And for the whole rest of rehearsal, I was just bawling, and I was crying on the way home afterwards.
Oh my goodness.
And I just couldn't stop. And I was laying in bed, and I had to say, I have to find a way to separate myself from this because it's too much.
Immersive, yeah.
Right. And you see a lot of really great actors who have horrible breakdowns or don't recover who are method actors. And so I really started studying Stella Adler, and she goes into using imagination, which is really great because that's what I really love.
Yeah.
And, it's still setting up the character. You still live as the character, but it's only while you're in those imaginary circumstances. And then once you're out of it, and you're back to being you. You're not the character anymore, and there's that separation level. And so you're not damaging yourself at that point, which I felt like that's what was happening.
Let me ask you this. Considering you've been, which is very interesting because you've been down now were you purposely doing method acting, or did you slip into that, would you say, at first?
Yeah, I'd say more that I slipped into it because I really hadn't had that training, especially not in high school. And then this was at the community college. And so I'd been there for a couple of years, and we talked about different methods of acting, but I hadn't really decided what was for me. So I was still trying all these different things, and Grotowski is another one. He does a lot of physical repetition and a lot of verbal repetition as well, but I did some studying of him at USF. We were doing a show called Blood Wedding, which is like a kind of a Spanish Romeo and Juliet. And we ended up doing all these different physical movements over and over and over again as workshops before we even did rehearsals for the scenes. And I found I'm still finding ways to incorporate these different things into my method of acting. But I'd say definitely I just kind of slipped into
the method,
having that character with me all the time.
And then you said the Stella Adler approach with the imagination. What do you think? I mean, as far as if you could define or describe the difference inside of you from one method to the other.
I'd say it was a little more wild with the method acting because, I didn't know what my emotions were going to be. I didn't know how well I was going to be able to take the day on, during rehearsals and everything. And this wasn't just for Sweetest Swing. It was for other characters as well. I mean, some of are comedies and some of them were tragedies and some of them were kind of a melodrama, but I feel like I kind of carried that character around with me and kind of played them in the real world, and they're not really meant to be there. So it was very confusing, and
yeah, absolutely.
It created some difficulties.
Yeah, just because I like to ask actors this, do you find after you've done a part that you'll go through your day and then you'll slip right back into that, or you'll feel that or think that thing of that character like they're still under your skin?
I definitely do. I'd say if it's a character I've had a really deep emotional bond with, if I really enjoyed playing that character, I totally want to bring it back and bring it into, whatever I was doing, or if I didn't like what I was dealing with in the real world, I'd just go back to...
Let me get my Daryl Strawberry on.
Yeah.
Just saying. I got a character for that. You better watch out. Go into the phone booth, come back out, got glasses on.
Right.
Because I'm fascinated by that. I am because I'll be honest with you. I've done... before I went into film production, I did game design, and before I did game design, I would play games, and before I played games, because I didn't have digital devices, I got into other forms of gaming, and some of those gaming where you had to become a character, or you made a character,
right?
And you just get attached to a character, and you get this backstory and a wardrobe and all this stuff, and every now and then, I don't feel like I'll be that old character, but I'll talk about her. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Oh, and then this happened. It's just a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
My other, was something else I wanted to know, was you had talked about like the Meisner strategy, I think, when we spoke before.
I'm trying to remember.
I may be remembering that wrong. So there, as far as the different strategies you learned in school, there was method acting, and what were the others?
Stella Adler, I'm trying to remember if it was Meisner who did method acting or not.
I don't know.
But Grotowski, I know, was the repetition and the physical repetition. And that my experience at USF, I actually had one of my professors who studied right directly under Grotowski.
Oh.
So that was really cool to be able to
awesome.
work with her. Yeah.
To be able to go, I am one person removed from Grotowski.
Right.
That's kind of, let me see.
That's very cool.
That's kind of awesome. I know that, personally, I have found that when a person studies under a master, that's just, I don't know, there's something kind of amazing about that.
Oh, absolutely.
So that had to be very, very cool. One thing I would like to do is talk about some of your mentors.
Okay. Yeah. When I studied at the community college, I had Dean Anthony and Ken Erickson. And Ken Erickson was a mentor he did a lot of the costumes or finding the costumes. He was an art major. So he really came at it from an approach of the visual aspect. And so he taught me a lot about costumes. He taught me a lot about creating sets and creating an entire look for the world of the show. And then Dean Anthony was definitely the acting teacher. He has a master's in acting performance. And so he introduced me to a lot of these different teachers and styles. And, he made us read some really great acting books. And he's very tough, It was a lot of tough love.
Now, I have heard some interesting stories from my fellow filmmaker friends and actors about really tough teachers. Do you mind sharing a story about one?
Sure.
Not using any names. What happened? Unless you want to, I don't mind.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a good one.
The reason why I ask is because I took a workshop here in Tampa, and that instructor told me that I forgot who he had said he'd studied under, but apparently she's really big, and I wish I remembered. But in any case, like I think she'd kick him.
Oh,
yeah, and she'd shout at him, or she'd scream, "Stop acting, stop it!" So I was like, "Wow!" And he's like, "But I won't do that in this class." And I'm like, "Oh, thank goodness!
My goodness!
Wow, don't want to be kicked or screamed at."
Well, at USF we had the teacher I spoke of that studied under Grotowski. She was very, very agile, and the whole time we were rehearsing a scene, and she was going for a specific emotional response or a specific physical response, because she, after studying from Grotowski, she really focused on the physical. And so she would, be like a little spider monkey running around us and everything while we were doing the scene. And, if she liked it, she'd go, "Keep it!" And then, so you're trying to stay in it.
Keep it. Oh, okay, I've got it. I just,
okay, I'm doing good. Okay, but I got to stay in this character. So,
oh my gosh.
So it was a little, it would make you a little frazzled, but at the same time, you kind of, okay, that's the feeling I'm going for.
Wow. Kind of do you mind? Okay, Chris, can we show the clip? This particular, I really love this next clip, and it's from Behind His Eyes by
Marcello Martindale.
Marcello Martindale.
Hello?
Hey, you.
Hey, how's it going?
I just wanted to see if we were still on for tonight.
Yes, most definitely.
Okay, see you then.
Who was that? Say something. Say anything.
How can you do this to me? Can't you see this is killing me?
Just shut the hell up. You don't exist. You're not real.
Never used to be so mean.
Be so mean. Can you even feel anything?
Of course I do, baby. It hurts me to see you this way.
You can't do this. You can't control me.
Remember the good times.
Get away from me. You all right, sir? I'm fine.
You'd better be careful, or they're going to put you back in the hospital again.
Why can't you just leave me alone?
Leave you alone? Whose mind are we in? You can't let me go. Deep down, you still want me. You still love me. You're the one who can't let go.
I didn't know you weren't real.
Real? Who's to say what's real? You, me, or that girl you're going to go meet?
She is real. I did love you, and the time we had together was great. But I can't let you torture me for the rest of my life. Otherwise, I'll be alone.
So that was a pretty good pretty good range there. When we were talking before, you said that it was really nice watching this with your friends and family, right?
It was actually, this was a Campus Movie Fest entry. And so this was actually something, Campus Movie Fest comes around. They take people who sign up for it, and they give you a camera and some equipment and everything, and you have basically a week to make a film. And what they did is they showed the top, I think it was the top 15, and this film made it into the top 10 of the Campus Movie Fest entries for USF. And so that was the first time that I actually got to see a film I was in up on a big screen. And I was sitting next to my roommates in college, and I had the people that I'd worked on the film with on the other side of me, and just seeing all these other students' reactions to the film. It was a lot of fun.
Was it a lot of fun?
Oh, yeah.
Hearing a lot of gas, some nervous giggling?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of nervous laughs.
I know. When I watched it, I was like, oh, that's intense. So what are you working on now? Are you working on anything now?
Yes, I've actually got, the iConcept show is coming up. I have, there's a TV show, a TV pilot we're hoping to get off the ground. It's called Hooked.
Hooked.
And it takes place in the 20s, and it's about a psychiatrist who started out, and this is the time when that practice is still fairly new. And my character is kind of like a female Walter White.
Oh, hey.
So that one's a lot of fun.
Just saying.
Yeah. She is basically a childhood friend of the main character, Dr. Mason Looney, and she's trying to use him to push her basically drug.
It's just like it.
She's kind of drug trafficking through him, so. But it's a lot of fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and where can we see information on Hooked? Is it?
There is a Facebook page. There's a fan page on Facebook. I think they have a Kickstarter, or they're trying to get a Kickstarter going. You can find them on Twitter.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different outlets to find out more information and be in the know for when we can finally get some more footage out. I know we filmed some promo footage, and we're working on a trailer to try and put it to networks.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then again, right now, you're doing iConcept, and is that all weekend long, or is it just Friday?
It's just Friday night. It starts at 8 o'clock. For general admission, I believe the tickets are about $45, so it's a little expensive.
$45,
but it is a fundraiser.
but you get to see, you get to see, well, not this, actually. This is, and this right here, this was your final project.
But yes, when I went to USF, I took a costuming class, and that was my final project.
I just want you to know, you can't see, but this thing is awesome because it has skulls and music notes. I'm going to make an offer on this thing. I'm just saying, and I love the color. Skulls and music notes. Who wouldn't love that? But iConcept is $45. That money goes to helping children's programs and benefiting Sarasota.
Yes. It's really a benefit for the Art Center, and so they can continue to offer classes and offer outlets for art, and it's an art outreach kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's like Fashion Week, but you help people.
Yeah.
And then you get to see cool stuff like Project Runway. Why wouldn't you go? But I want to thank you so much.
Thank you
for coming on the show.
It's a lot of fun.